Let's bring in Tom Rogers, longtime media executive, who was the first president of NBC Cable, starting CNBC, also NBC's former chief strategist, former CEO of TiVo, currently executive chairman of the sports gaming and gambling company Winview, and a CNBC contributor. Tom, good to have you here.
Good to be here. Thank you for the intro.
Pete made the point that they have moved into streaming, but maybe not fast enough. Is that the way you feel?
Well, the biggest issue Disney had this quarter is stopping people from spreading the ashes of their dead relatives around the Disney parks. But the stock is clearly not dead. It's alive, as Pete said. Mario actually said earlier today he thought as much as 200 in the next 2 years. But I don't see a new life here. The sports story, as optimistic as he was about ESPN, churn for the last quarter generally was terrible. People thought it was getting better in the second quarter. In the third quarter, churn across the industry got worse. Dish and DirecTV, which are a third of that, the churn was horrendous. The new skinny bundles digital guys are not really making up for that. So I don't quite understand the optimism.
And the cord cutting is still happening.
Cord cutting is
still happening.
It is here to stay.
They're going to end up paying a lot more for sports rights, too, going forward.
To Guy's point, the big savior for the sports networks and people involved in sports marketing is this massive new source of gaming revenue and gaming gambling revenue.
Bang.
They're going to inherit through the Fox acquisition about 10% of DraftKings, but my prediction is Disney, because of the Disney brand, is not a first-in mover.
Well, that was what I was going to ask you.
And that's not grabbing what's there.
It seems to me that there is an opportunity, and you guys jump in here, there is an opportunity for a dedicated sports betting channel. But I don't know that that fits with Disney's brand.
Well, it might down the road. I don't think they're going to move quickly, and you know first mover means a lot in any of these businesses. I was surprised at Julia's earlier interview that the Fox acquisition got very little mention. That ended up being a smaller deal than it looked like. They're going to get about 30 billion of that 70 billion in consideration back by the spinoff of Sky and other assets. But they end up with no sports story here. They're getting rid of the regional sports channels. Justice won't let them own it. Sky is going to Comcast, so the whole Sky Sports, European sports expansion story isn't there. Yes, he mentioned Nat Geo. But look, Nat Geo and FX do not a Netflix make. And very interesting commentary out of Todd Younger, the media analyst, great media analyst out of Bernstein, that Disney was beginning to look more like it was creating a CBS All Access than a new Netflix. CBS All Access going to be happy with 16 million subscribers over the next couple years. Obviously, Netflix is at 100 million, growing to 300 million. If he's right, that's a whole different game. And I was surprised in Julia's earlier interview, Iger didn't say that with this new studio superpower, the only studio superpower out there, that they aren't going to be expanding the number of films. If they're going after Netflix, you would expect an expanded film slate, and I didn't hear that at all. So I don't think they're going to be suffering the earnings dilution that people were worried about with putting out $14 billion in new programming costs, the way that Netflix will be spending by the end of next year. But you got to have more modest ambitions about what this thing looks like. I didn't hear a new life. Stock's alive, great consumer economy. The parks will do fantastically in that. But it isn't transformational in terms of anything I heard.
Pete, you had a question, I think.
Well, in terms of the gambling, and Guy brought this up, and we talked about it that night when they talked about the gambling, and I know you're very heavily involved in that world. How big is it, and is that something that they should be much more aggressive with in terms of the approach from Disney?
I don't think there's any doubt they should be more aggressive. You got to grab that because you got Amazon, you got Google, you got Facebook, all looking at sports rights. If you're the leader in sports rights and you're worried about declining ratings, declining subscriber fees, and you got to look for a new revenue base to hang on to those rights, to be the front bidder, the last thing you want to do is give up that new big source of revenue to somebody else.
Guy.
One of Pete's. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Fight for it. Jump off.
Top fight here.
Video game stocks have just got annihilated in the last couple months. And when you think about this kind of grab for content over the last couple of years, do you think that a Disney would move into maybe electronic arts? Do you see the potential for synergies, especially as we see all this with esports?
I think esports is going to be huge. I think that esports has an opportunity, given the demographics that are actively engaged in esports more than television sports viewing. Certainly, if I was looking to expand a sports franchise, I would go heavily at esports. You know, most of the successful games, big money games, are shoot 'em up games so far, and I'm not sure that's going to change near term. But over the long haul, I think esports is going to be huge. Pete, too, is a big one in there.
Pete mentioned this. Bob Iger is synonymous with Disney. Is succession plan important in your mind?
In terms of the transformation of a company, succession plan is everything. I think you got to really understand what you do to maneuver through a thicket of massively big companies just in the sports right arena, guys who can bid on sports and it not bother their bottom line at all relative to how it would impact a Disney. But look, this thing's in great shape. The stock's very much alive. Mario's as good a stock prognosticator as anybody in terms of where this thing could go in the near term. I think in terms of long-term transformation, succession means a lot.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. Great to be with you.
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic.